humankind has destroyed its home planet and is trying to survive in an alien world. But will people be able to conquer the distant and severe planet? What will they have to do in order not to disappear completely? Is physical survival enough, or will humanity be destroyed by other unknown forces?
Watch fantastic recaps by fans of the movies.
The story begins in London in the year 2032. Like everywhere else in the world, the city is experiencing a shortage of living resources. Diseases are spreading and there are mass riots in the refugee camps. Priest Peter Lay comes to the hospital to visit his dying wife Bea. He is distressed and ready to leave with her, but Bea insists that God has prepared another destiny for him. At the request of his dying wife, Peter reads the Bible to the end. After visiting the ward, the priest returns to the volunteers and they help the needy together, participate in the distribution of food, and encourage children. At one of these moments, he is approached by a woman who introduces herself as Vivian Hades. She is the Mission Resource Director for an ambitious organization dedicated to relocating the 1% elite to another planet, Oasis. Peter wanted to avoid the conversation, as his late wife was always against such ventures. But Vivian informs him that she was asked to come by his friend and co-founder of the mission, David Morgan. During the conversation, the woman says that the organization and David Morgan personally want to involve Peter into the mission of colonizing the planet. The priest recalls that from the beginning, he was against relocating only a small fraction of humans to a more habitable world. In addition, the organization itself planned that there would be no religious movements on the planet. Vivian replies that now something has changed and shows him the message that came during the last communication session. In the video, David Morgan speaks directly to Peter and says that he remembers how the priest feels about the mission. He says that he did not realize before that colonizing a planet means not only settling people, but also caring for their spirituality. David asks a friend to join the mission. Peter reminds him that the Oasis project represents everything that he and his wife have been struggling with all their lives, but Vivian convinces him to accept the offer. Her organization promises to make a large donation to the church Peter serves. Reluctantly, Peter agrees to join the project, as he needs the money to support those in need. The priest is transported to a launch center in Kazakhstan, where he passes several tests before flying on a rocket through the galaxy. Vivian explains that the price of sending a person to the Oasis is 100 million, so the organization wants to make sure that every crew member can make the flight alive. Before takeoff, Peter meets a nerd named Psy who is afraid to fly and worried about the safety of such an event, but when he learns that the priest is flying with them, it calms him down a bit. The crew must be protected by God. For the duration of the flight, the mission members are put into an induced coma. In the moment before losing consciousness, Peter recalls the last seconds he was spending with his wife before she was injected with a means for euthanasia. The planet Oasis greets the travelers with a powerful sandstorm which does not bode well. The crew members are moved to one of the hangars that the humans have built. They experience severe disorientation and nausea. Peter meets the station's chief of security, Sarah Keller, who is not very happy about the chaplain's arrival. She believes that a man of faith is the last thing needed on a planet covered in sand and where every single day is a struggle for survival. They were planning to send a planner in his place, she explains to Vikram Dinesh, the acting chief of the settlement. The chief asks her to check out the priest. As Peter adapts to his new surroundings, he meets Paul Halloran, a driller, who tells him about the acute shortage of water, despite the apparent abundance of this important resource on the planet. When David Morgan orders a halt to drilling, water is worth its weight in gold, so the settlers use special blue foam and wet wipes for personal hygiene. While Peter takes a shower, Sarah Keller examines his belongings and makes sure he is indeed a priest. In the medical bay, the station's new residents are inoculated to get used to the planet's air mixture and implanted with GPS trackers to track their location. Lily's doctor explains that the planet's atmosphere is not only too dry and can cause nosebleeds, but also provokes visual hallucinations due to the high pressure on the eyes. During dinner, Vikram Dinesh greets the new residents of the station. He says the main goal is to establish the first permanent colony on the Oasis. As he speaks, one of the settlers at the table, BGNZ, clarifies that the Oasis resembles not a place of dreams, a place of nightmares. You can tell by his demeanor that something suspicious is going on in this place, but in the general mood, the settlers are careful not to show their worries. Vikram explains the importance of the mission and specifies that the colony will house 50,000 people in its finished form. But right now, everyone needs to focus on drilling wells for water production. He also introduces the chaplain, but Peter's arrival does not elicit strong emotions from the majority. The chaplain explains that he himself did not used to believe in religion, but now is ready to help the people of the station if needed. Vikram Dinesh assigns him a room to meditate and to talk to the believers. BG escorts Peter to his room, and on the way they discuss each other's beliefs. The chaplain tells him that he is an ecumenist and believes in all religions, except Satan's. His interlocutor agrees that he believes in all dollar bills too. BG explains that each room has access to a communication system that everyone calls the pipe. Through it, the settlers can send messages to each other or to Earth with the help of it. He also shared a few pills with the chaplain to help them fall asleep. BG added that the local air makes it hard to sleep, and that the lack of sleep on the oasis is deadly, but he didn't explain exactly why, only offered to see for himself. The priest tries to find out where his friend David Morgan is, but the interlocutor only pointed in the direction of the communication system. Peter also receives a message from an unknown sender quoting the Bible from Matthew chapter 10. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the light. The next day, Peter is on his way out. The sandstorm has passed and the settlers are back to their business. While making the rounds of the neighborhood, he meets Alicia Reyes, who is not thrilled about the planet either. She explains that the rocket Peter arrived on is being melted down to build other parts of the future city from it. They will only be able to return back to the Earth in 2 years, but only if they survive. Their conversation is monitored by a drone, which does not surprise Alicia. The management is not only monitoring the planet, but also the settlers. Peter tries to ask his conversation partner where his friend is, but they are interrupted by BG, who informs him that Vikram Dinesh, the CEO, has asked him to come. On his way to the CEO's office, Peter sees a small room where a woman is dancing, which only adds mystery to what is going on. He passes David Morgan's room, which is being searched by 2 settlers on Vikram Dinesh's orders. On the wall, he notices the same phrase he received in the message, "What I tell you in the dark, speak in the light." Vikram Dinesh asks around what David Morgan told him about the mission, but Peter knows nothing except the need for a god-man. The station chief explains that his friend often explores the planet alone, but this time there have been no reports from him for over a week, and he's jeopardizing the entire mission. David has been acting just as strangely lately. His room is being searched in order to know about his possible itinerary. Dinesh suspects that there is something wrong with Morgan's psyche. He ordered a halt to drilling when the station is experiencing a water shortage, and when he asked to send a planner, he got a priest. David himself disappears into the desert. At the same time, Sarah Keller goes jogging in the desert and begins to hear the voice of her daughter, with whom she occasionally communicates via a link with the earth. Then the woman even sees the figure of her child and follows her. The woman tries to catch up with her daughter, who looks very realistic, and finds an abandoned car. It is the one that David Morgan left the station in. The car is stuck in the sands, and a bloodstain can be seen on its windshield. Sarah returns to the station and shows the found items to the supervisor. Vikram says that David Morgan personally cut out his GPS tracker, and in his belongings they find a large supply of medication and Bible pictures. The head of security offers to organize a search, but the station manager won't let her do it. Vikram doesn't want his authority to be challenged and orders the drill team to reconvene and start extracting water in the morning. Sarah insists that she must ensure the safety of everyone at the base, including Morgan. Vikram Dinesh reminds her that she got to the planet because of a violation of an order in the police force on Earth, and suggests not to make the mistake again. According to his words, Morgan himself does not want to be found. After the conversation, Vikram Peter goes to the meditation room and begins to put the room in order. At this time, he is visited by Paul Halloran, who wants to talk to the chaplain. He tells the chaplain about his favorite horse that he bought on the Earth. The horse could have won the race anyway, but to be on the safe side, Paul paid the vet for narcotic drugs, and a few meters before the finish line, the horse fell off its feet. His heart could not stand the effects of drugs. To alleviate the animal's suffering, Paul shot the horse. Peter calms down the interlocutor, but he says that he saw his horse on the oasis. The priest starts discussing the torments of conscience and how they affect people, but Paul claims that it is not his imagination, and the planet affects the settlers this way. He believes that this is the reason for the settlers' accidents. The colony has already lost 3 people. Paul tries to find out how Morgan has reacted, but Paul alludes to the fact that they are being watched and suggests they ask the head of security. Peter arrives at Sarah Keller's office, starts looking through it and finds his friend's belongings. His notes with obscure symbols, a GPS tracker and Bible pictures. The head of security enters and the priest tries to find out from her where David Morgan has disappeared. He questions Sarah about the accidents, but she says that all the accidents were due to loss of concentration. The head of security also shows his file, which points out Peter's multiple crimes in the past. He explains that he was able to end his criminal past when he met his wife who led him to God. At nightfall, the inexplicable events occur again on the base. BG sees his father in the window who cannot be on Oasis. He gets rid of the visions with the help of medication, which he asks Dr. Lilly for. In the morning, botanist Sai demonstrates to Alicia Reyes a new plant watering system that is more efficient than the one sent with the crew, so the drill team gets to work. At this time, Paul Halloran, who is working with the rig, sees the ghost of his horse again. He reaches for it with his hand and is hit by the drill, suffering fatal injuries. They try to save him, but the man has lost a lot of blood. The priest also rushes to the victim's aid. Paul tells him that he saw his horse. Peter says a prayer over the dying man. Alicia invites Peter to follow her and they leave the medical office. The woman tells him that after he left, David sent her a secret message that she had kept hidden until then. In the recording, a friend says the name of Jesus Christ and asks her to find him. The residents of the base gather in the canteen, where Vikram Dinesh reports on the death of Paul Halloran. He again writes it off as an accident, but the settlers no longer believe it. They all see hallucinations and believe that the planet itself is to blame for the deaths of their loved ones. The doctor also admits that the information about the effect of the atmosphere on the eyes is also a lie. According to Lily, this is what she was ordered to say by Morgan after the first accident. This revelation comes as a shock to the men. Vikram orders everyone to stay in their rooms until further notice. The acting head of the base sends a message to Earth suggesting that David be considered dead and takes over leadership duties. He tells them that the base is being attacked by unknown planetary forces. Alicia leads Peter to David's room. The chaplain takes a long look at a Bible quote on the wall there, and when the lights are turned off, coordinates appear on the inscription. The chaplain gets into one of the cars but is stopped by Sarah Keller. Peter convinces her to let him go in search of the specified location to help figure out what is causing people to die. The head of security agrees. She too has seen hallucinations involving her daughter. Using the coordinates, Peter finds a mysterious cave at the entrance of which he begins to hear his last wife's voice. Being surprised, he walks deep inside and sees several figures in long robes with their faces covered. The priest cannot believe his eyes, but suddenly one of the figures shows his face. Bia, his dead wife, is standing in front of him. Peter is in a state of shock and does not understand anything. This is where the events of the episode end, leaving a field for reflection on the mysteries of the planet Oasis.
Watch fantastic recaps by fans of the movies.